After claiming 3 consecutive Big Ten championships, 8-5, not necessarily what Michigan had envisioned for 2024. However, considering the circumstances, they concluded the season in fine fashion and salvaged the season with another win against Ohio State, the eventual national champion, and another bowl win against SEC power Alabama. Now we move ahead to 2025. Sherrone Moore fully entrenched as Michigan's head coach, having gained experience in 2023 in crucial games down the stretch. He will miss, for a second time in 3 seasons, Michigan's head coach will miss multiple games, as Sherrone Moore will miss the games 3 and 4. And we will discuss that in just a second. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. We are previewing all the teams in the power conferences and predicting records as well. We will have our final predictions at the conclusion of the summer after August camp. Looking at Michigan, of course, Sherrone Moore at the center of the controversy, and these players and coaches, and Moore in particular, should be used to the controversy. Actually, I don't know that they could live without it at this point. That's all they know, and it's not ended yet, as the NCAA investigation is still looming and the results thereof. So will Moore have a 2-game suspension, or could it be more, and could there be more penalties awaiting the University of Michigan for its many violations? All right, let's look at 2025, because that centers around not just Sherrone Moore, and the centerpiece is, of course, Bryce Underwood. Or will it be Bryce Underwood in week 1 against New Mexico, as, of course, Michigan sought hard to bring in reinforcements, and the number 1 guy would be Mikey Keene of Fresno State, also time at UCF. He's thrown about 65 touchdowns in his career, has been a capable quarterback, and even if you check out his numbers against power conference competition, again, a capable quarterback who's worked with back in his days at UCF. However, Mikey Keene could not compete in spring drills. Bryce Underwood has taken the lead, and I would expect, and do expect, Bryce Underwood to be the starting quarterback week 1 out of the gate. And then this unit still has Jaden Davis, who's of course not ready, but he's a highly prized guy that will probably move on, you would think. You got Davis Warren, of course, who was the original starting quarterback in 2024 and then led the team to the big wins. Jake Garcia, most recently of East Carolina, also a top 50 commit to Miami originally. Stop at Missouri included. But Michigan fans, you don't want to see Jake Garcia in meaningful minutes against quality teams. He just throws it to the other uniform way too much. Back to the guy that counts. Bryce Underwood, yeah, it's going to be a rocky start. It's going to be a challenging start for him. A trip to Oklahoma and what was one of the top 10 defenses in college football last year. Of course, they've lost a lot, but you would think with Brent Venables, he would have a lot up his sleeve awaiting one Bryce Underwood in week 2. But Underwood, I believe, should get the call here. He just has enormous ceiling potential. He seems to be learning the offense and progressing extremely well. So Bryce Underwood is the guy that needs to make it happen for Michigan to reach the college football playoffs for sure if he has a big, outstanding season. But Mikey Keene could lead this team to a playoff for a number of reasons: running game, defense, and schedule. Let's stick to the offensive personnel, because the offensive line, I was all over the place trying to pick up information on this offensive line. They have been recently loaded through this Big Ten championship run of 3 in 4 years with all sorts of Big Ten conference type players and NFL draft selections. But this year, it's a bit shoddy. Greg Crippen is the most experienced with 8 starts at center. They used the transfer portal not to pick up the type of players that they have from the likes of Arizona State and Stanford and elsewhere in recent seasons, but 2 FCS players, and it's tough to get information on these guys. And so the offensive line is a question mark, I got to say. But behind the offensive line, the running game, and this has been a Michigan staple, obviously, since this title run started in 21 with Hassan Haskins, Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum, and others. Of course, Khalil Mullings saved the day a number of times against Ohio State and USC in particular last year. But Jordan Marshall, oh my goodness, was he impressive against Alabama. Yeah, the stats are impressive, but you had to watch the game considering he didn't play much during the regular season. Steps in against an NFL-loaded defense, and it's not like he had gaping holes and was just basically running down the field through air. He was running for tough yardage, showed to be a man, and of course the strength and conditioning program has not fully affected Jordan Marshall at this point after just a freshman season, so expect big things there. And people rave, and I've seen him play many times, about Justice Haynes coming in from Alabama. He is a man as well. So that 1-2 combination out of the backfield for the Wolverines looks to be stout. And it needs to be, because the passing game is still going to be in question because of the pass protection, because of Underwood's experience, and because the receivers just aren't that good until proven otherwise. Colston Loveland was the best receiver playing at tight end last year. He was a top-level NFL draft selection, so the wide receiver's shaky. They basically swapped Tyler Morris to Indiana for Donovan McCulley, who is probably the number one threat here. You've got Samaj Morgan. Fred Moore was supposed to be a playmaker in space. That didn't happen. Andrew Marsh, you can't expect anything at this point out of a true freshman, but he's got a ton of talent. And then you also have one Anthony Simpson. When you put it all together, new offensive coordinator Phil Longo says we want to be the most physical offense in the country, and we want to ramp it up when it comes to explosive plays. Definitely as the quarterback to do it. Now let's look at the defense that's going to allow Bryce Underwood to develop and mature and not have to shoulder a situation where he's got to score 35 points a game. The defense has reached a point with this Baltimore Ravens pipeline of defensive coordinators. And of course, Wink Martindale is the latest, and he's almost the originator of the defense, that with the personnel and the coordinators, it almost doesn't matter at this point who's in charge and who's on the field, because they have a culture built and a system that works. And it was a bit rocky through much of last season, but of course the offense didn't help, and then they locked in against Ohio State and Alabama. So much talent lost from this team, but so much talent back. And they were missing 4 stars on defense against Bama and shut down the Crimson Tide. Rayshon Benny is back to anchor the middle. You've got Derek Moore coming off the edge. The linebacking duo of Jayshawn Barham and Ernest Hausman, the 2 transfers originally from Maryland and Nebraska. Those guys are stout. They are playmakers. They're just 2 of the best in the Big Ten. And Michigan also picks up reinforcements from 2 of the biggest brand names in the sport, Trey Williams to play up front from Clemson, and also Alabama's Damon Payne, as Michigan takes another of Alabama's players. Now, in the secondary, of course, Michigan has been excellent in recent years, but this group needs to be hidden a bit by a pass rush, you would think, although Jair Hill could be a future first-round pick. He has shown flashes of greatness. Zeke Berry, good player. Rod Moore could be the key addition, and of course, he's already on the team. And go back to 2023, you see his stats there, culminated with a big interception against Ohio State to clinch the victory against the Buckeyes. And the Michigan defense should be just fine. But again, some question marks in the secondary. At place kicker, Michigan has been just exceptional in finding the right guy in recent years. Dominic Zavada hit on 21 of 22, including a perfect 7 of 7 from 50+. The punter, Tommy Doman, left for Gainesville, Florida, to play for the Gators, and so Michigan wants to make sure they get it right, so they brought in 2 punters, one from Mississippi State, one from Mizzou. Now let's look at the schedule in Michigan. This is incredible because Michigan faced one of the toughest schedules in the new Big Ten last year, but now they face possibly the worst, easiest schedule. These 9 opponents that Michigan faces in the Big Ten, only one had a winning conference record last year. That, of course, was Ohio State. And if you put it all together, 28 wins, 63 losses for this bunch, only 1 winning team, 8 losing teams out of the bunch here. It all starts with New Mexico, then the trip to Norman in week 2. September 20th, Sharon Moore will not be coaching. when Michigan goes to Nebraska for the Big Ten opener. After the warm-up against New Mexico, it gets serious in Norman against Oklahoma week 2. Could be a tough setting for Bryce Underwood to take on a tremendous defense and a much improved offense, because Michigan will probably have to score some points against the Sooners with John Mateer running the controls. Fast forward ahead to the Big Ten opener on the road at Nebraska, and of course Sharon Moore will not be in attendance. And so Michigan has cited these weeks 3 and 4 games for Moore to be on, not the sideline, but out of the stadium and hands off, although he can coach the team throughout the week, I believe. At USC Washington back-to-back, there's really no daunting stretch here at all for this team. Again, 28-63 if you put together the Big Ten records of the 2025 opponents. And, of course, Michigan rallied late, had a fourth down conversion at the end of the ball game with 1 second left to beat USC. And then, of course, they lost at Washington last year. They get the return trips from each, just flip-flop that. And an easy stretch drive leading to the showdown against the Buckeyes in the Big House. Add it all up for Michigan football, and Mikey Keene could lead this team to 10 wins. Bryce Underwood, of course, much higher ceiling, but some possible freshman mistakes, could also go 10-2. So I like Michigan to go 10-2. I'm finding the losses here. Of course, Ohio State is a possibility. And then other than that, Oklahoma on the road, call that a 50-50 game. I'm going to give Michigan the lean on that one. I think they lose the 2 games in the Big Ten. Maybe going out to USC is a trip up there, and then maybe against Ohio State or elsewhere as we look at the schedule. But man, Michigan could even do better than 10-2. We'll call it 10 wins for the Wolverines right now. And of course, check out our Michigan channel. Shows on Tuesday and Thursday. And of course, they keep you updated on all the recruiting and everything else. And keep it locked in here at the Voice of College Football. We're running through all the teams across the nation. And also the big show that we do each and every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got all-time program rankings coming your way. We also are revising national championships because they're a mess throughout the history of college football. So join the chat, give me a call, and we'll talk it up right here at the Voice of College Football.